To episode 40 of Raw Sport. My name is Ahmed Al-Houli, and as usual, my co-host, Mr. Tony Sheen, joins me on the show. Tony, how are you, buddy? How's things?
Morning, Ahmed. I can't wait for this next guest. I know we go all around the world, but this bloke is next level.
Absolutely, mate. We are in very special company today. UFC legend Matt Brown, The Immortal, joins us on the show. Matty, how are you, buddy? How's things?
I'm good, man. Very good.
Hey, Matty, it's been a torrid 12 to 24 hours for you. Just tell us about where you are and what happened last night.
Oh, the tornadoes, man.
Yeah.
Sirens blowing off everywhere. There's a couple of touchdowns, tornadoes touchdown, within about 10 miles of me. So it's a little nerve-wracking, but, it's kind of fun, too.
So, take us quickly. What happens? You sort of board up your windows and get in the bathroom?
Now, you're supposed to sit in your basement, but I just stand outside and wait to see it, hopefully.
Was it crazy last night?
Yeah, it was crazy, man. Lightning, tons of lightning. Some, I don't know. I think they said about 50, 60-mile-an-hour winds.
It
was pretty wild.
Cars upturned, roofs ripped off?
No. Oh, well, I'm sure there was where the tornadoes touched down, but where I'm at, it was nothing. Just, trees blowed over, trash blew around, stuff like that.
Wow. Matty, why now? Why is now the right time for you to say enough's enough? I'm done.
That's a good question. So, sorry. It wasn't really like right now. It's kind of been a long time coming. I called the UFC a couple months ago and kind of already retired. I just hadn't announced it yet. So, but man, I just didn't. They offered me a fight a few months ago, also like right before I called them to retire, and I just didn't get that excited about it. Maybe you just call it boredom or kind of been there, done that. I don't know, but I just felt like, there's other ways that I can make money. And I really the only reason I wanted to do that fight was for money. So I was like, I can make money doing all kinds of shit. I don't need to go fight for money.
Are you emotional discussing this?
Well, the first couple of times I discussed it, yeah, but now I've been on about 10 or 15 podcasts discussing it, so now I'm kind of, it's kind of a broken record to me, to be honest.
Well, we did a little bit of homework on you, and obviously you were at LAX when you ranked the UFC and said, "I'm pulling the pin." Did you ring? Was it Dana White?
It was Sean Shelby.
Yeah, okay, and that's when you have admitted in the other 15 podcasts that you shed a tear, and then you're actually quite sort of fearful of people recognize you at LAX.
Yeah. It was weird, man. Just sitting there like with a tear coming out my eye, like what are people going to think of me? But I also tell. I'm sorry. I also tell people I'm very secure with myself, man. Like once you've been knocked out in front of a million people, I don't think there's really anything else that can face you. Like I've been knocked out and humiliated, and I've also knocked enough others out and been on the top. So I'm pretty comfortable with myself, and I just don't really give a shit. But the bigger point was just that it really hit me hard. Like I had thought about it, and I was pretty committed to doing it. But when I actually made that phone call, and I was like, fuck, I just did it. It really hit me hard. I was like, dude, it's like it's dead now, and it's like it kind of reminded me of I had a dog I had to put down, and like I remember walking him to the vet to put him down, and I wasn't even that bothered. I was like, it's the right thing, you gotta do it. And then as soon as they put that needle in him, like I turned into a little baby, just crying my eyes out,
Is that an analogy, or did that happen?
No, that actually happened. Yeah. And I never cried as hard in my life as when I had to put my dog down.
Wow.
So I'm sorry to hear that.
Well, it was like 5-6 years ago. I mean, it's all good now, but still miss the guy, man. He was a hell of a dog.
Matty, you've been through the sport through many transitions. You've probably seen it go from a backyard sport to a world behemoth juggernaut, overtaking boxing, overtaking all the different martial arts. Take us through that transition. Take us through that journey, mate. Because now you guys, well, like you, formerly when you were part of the UFC has more followers than the NFL on social media than most of many other sports league. And you've seen this thing grow from like a little baby into a big grown man.
Yeah.
Take us through that journey. I'm really interested in your view of things and how you seen that transition all the way through and how they treated you.
I've been treated pretty much the same most of the time. The only difference is, when the UFC got bought out by Endeavor or IMG or whatever the fuck it is, that's when things kind of changed because it was no longer a family. When you go to the UFC, it was very corporate and very structured. Whereas before, you knew everybody on the staff and, it was like, hey, what's up? And I used to bring them, gifts and stuff. And then I don't remember which fight it was, but there was a fight, like I brought a gift for one of the staff people and they weren't even there anymore, and I was like, damn, like they've been here forever, so, it was a little awkward in that, but to be honest, the biggest change that I've seen, in my opinion, has been the whole social media game. And I remember when they brought us to a UFC summit and I don't know, I think it was 2010. It was like one of the first UFC summits, probably the first one, where they bring all the fighters out to the Red Rock Casino and they give you all these speeches about silly stuff. And well, at the time, it seems like silly stuff, but they were actually very on point with it. And I remember the one, it felt like the entire summit was about Twitter. And I remember just thinking to myself, like, what in the hell did you bring me out here for? Like, what is this thing? Like, this is stupid. Like I didn't even care to have the free meals. I was like, I just want to go home. Like, you made me sit through this, these stupid speeches and stuff to hear about this stupid Twitter thing. And here we are now. They were ahead of the game, and you gotta respect that, man. I think they do the social media better than any other sport out there. They've embraced it. They've ran with it. And to be honest, I think that's the biggest game changer, the biggest separator from between the UFC and all these other sports. Like if you can go talk about football players, boxers, wrestlers, baseball players, it doesn't matter. You don't know who those people are. But all the fighters, you take someone like even like me, like I don't have the greatest record, but a lot of people know who the hell I am. More people know who I am than like the linebacker for the Vikings or something. You know what I mean?
So sorry to interrupt.
No, so, or some, there's like boxers with world titles that have less of a following than me. Like no one knows their personality or who they are. And even if they do know who they are, they don't know their personality and it's not magnified. So, I think that is the biggest separator with the UFC. And you really got to hand it to them for figuring that out and doing it.
So what's your go-to? Is it Instagram? Is it TikTok? Is it Twitter?
I do Instagram and Twitter the most, but I also use the Facebook. And I actually have a TikTok that I use just for guitar videos. So
you don't find Twitter really toxic and a cesspit of negativity?
No, I don't actually. I'm pretty good about like blocking and muting and having specific followers. I think most of social media, you have to use it for what it is, and you have to recognize how to use it for a positive thing. Because I actually love social media now. It took me a very long time. I like scrolling through my social media. I like replying and talking to others because I get a very positive experience out of it from the way that I've curated my feeds. And it just took a little bit of time and a little bit of, manipulating things. And to be honest, like I get extremely valuable knowledge from my social media, and I've met some incredible people from social media. So I'm all about it, man.
Very nice. What would you say is the most significant moment in your career, or moments?
Most significant, I would say significant wise was probably when I uh, won the fight to get on the Ultimate Fighter, because that was really the fork in the road for me. Um, if if you don't win that fight, you're pretty much a lost cause. There's some guys that fight their ways back and everything, but I'd actually not really given up on fighting, but I wasn't focusing much on fighting right before I got on the Ultimate Fighter, because I think I had 15, 16 fights, professional fights, 15, 20 amateur fights. I was going around, going to guys' hometowns, fighting them, fighting the toughest guys I could find anywhere. And I was making, $1,000 or something. And it was just starting to get to me. And then I got a really good job as a personal trainer. I was making a shit ton of money, just training hot girls all day. So I was like, I was living in New York City on the Upper West Side. And I was like, what am I doing this shit for? And then the Ultimate Fighter came along and brought me back. So realistically, had that never happened, I'd still probably be personal training, or, who knows what I would be doing. But I mean, when you talk about, just pure significance in a career like that, that was easily the most significant moment. Especially also that season, if you remember, it was season 7. They brought out 32 people for the first time. We didn't know we were fighting to get on. And then all of a sudden, a little story about that too, is they bring me in to lose. I didn't even know that until basically after, right? Because the guy that I was matched up, so they put me on Rampage's team for the Rampage's corner, to corner me for the fight to get on. Now, the guy that was on Forrest's corner was Rampage's buddy. And he was, it was a 185 season. This guy was like 210 pounds. I'm like,
Wow.
I'm like wearing pants to make 185. And so I go fight him, and I see like Rampage's guys are cornering him, and Forrest guys are cornering him. So I'm like, damn, it's a small, it's a studio really where you're fighting. It's not a arena, so you hear everything. So that was a pretty wild experience for me. But anyway, like I said, that was probably, to me, the most significant fight of my life.
How did you adjust when you found that the whole circus is working against you?
There's no adjustment. You put your head down, you bite down your mouthpiece, you go forward. That's all there was to it, man. I said, look, this is where I'm at. I'm willing to die in there. I'm not taking no for an answer. If you knock me out, then that's on you. But I'm not gonna let myself down out here.
Have you made enough money to retire?
Hell no.
But is the UFC?
I've said that a few times. I'm not retiring. I'm switching jobs. Conor McGregor can retire, go to Miami and chill on a yacht and golf all day. I ain't fucking retiring. I'm just finding a different source of income. There's so few people that, quote unquote, retire in the sport. There's like 5 guys.
Do you believe UFC fighters are paid enough?
No.
How would you do it differently if I gave you the top job?
I don't really get too much into it, to be honest. It's a pretty intense conversation. It's kind of is what it is. There's not really any change in it. And if I go out on a limb and say one thing, you're not going to get no, if you're on one side of the argument, you're not getting no backing. If you're on the other side of the argument, you're looking like an idiot. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a lose-lose conversation, to be honest. And I just kind of leave it at that. I don't think there's a win in that conversation, unfortunately.
Hey, Matt, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to change tact a little bit. I think you got knocked out quite severely a few years back, and your partner described some of your faculties had taken a hit. Do you worry about your future and potentially CTE and all of that concussion type scenario?
My former partner, and I've never.
Sure,
it's fine. I just want to make that clear. And no, I've never worried about that. That's what you sign up for when you get in the sport. I've never taken that into consideration. I knew what I was getting into when I did this. I'm a warrior through and through, and I accept whatever the consequences are. But I'm also not a fool, and I know what the potential consequences are. And that on that one, I didn't get knocked out, which is very strange. I've been knocked out once in my life, and that was by a cowboy. Got TKO'd 2 other times, which were kind of some bullshit. But the one time that happened was with Johnny Hendricks, and I actually, he picked me up and took me down, and my head just hit the mat a funny way, and it was one of the first things that happened in the first round, and the rest of the fight I was seeing stars, and the cage is spinning, and I'm seeing 2 of him and all these kind of things, and then after the fight, I'd get out of bed and fall over. I'd be talking, having a conversation like this, and just stop talking and be kind of confused. Like, dude, where was I at? Like, I know I was saying something. But anyway, I took care of all that, and I think my brain's back to normal. I do a Cleveland Clinic study every year that they're studying 700 combat sports athletes. They've been following me for over 12 years now. My brain has actually improved over those 12 years, which is pretty fascinating.
Wow.
So I don't actually, I'm fortunate that I don't have a ton to worry about on that. But again, circling back to the original question, I never have worried about it because that's the sport we sign up for, man. And if you're not willing to sacrifice everything for this, then you're not going to get anywhere.
Well, Aussie Rules in Australia is going through, that's our national sport, I'm sure you would be aware of it. We're going through some severe concussion protocols at the moment, and we're really worried about the sanctity of the head. Have you got any advice how the players and or the officials can, follow your steps? And I don't know whether it's a Cleveland study or whether it's diet or getting off the alcohol. Can you explain that to us?
How I took care of my brain?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I do a lot of things. I've done a lot of research on it, and I've been blessed to know some really good neurologists and doctors and natural people that, I don't know what you would call them, but like doctors that are into the natural cures for things and not just taking drugs and stuff. So one of the things, like if I get rocked in the gym, like I'll usually go keto real quick, and that's actually real good for the brain. Keto's not good for performance. You don't need to do it to make weight, to lose weight. It's a garbage diet for the most part. It's kind of dumb, but there is some research showing it being good for the brain. So I'll usually implement that. Start eating like some blueberries. I obviously I'll rest up a little bit, but I don't completely rest. I kind of skipped over that part. Berries in general, but blueberries have things in them that are amazing for the brain. So I make sure that I always kind of take blueberries anyway. I actually grow them in my yard here, so it's one of the best things. But then also, exercise is actually important, because some of the old school doctors, they'll just have you just rest, but you actually need to exercise lightly and gently and not get the shock from running or jumping rope or something like that. But, just long walks. And then I'm trying to remember, there's a couple other things. I haven't been rocked in a long time, but there's a couple other things I do. But those are the significant ones.
Wow, really, really interesting stuff. Where to from here, Matty? What's next?
I own a gym I've had for 6 years, and that's going to be one of my big things. It hasn't grown as much as it could have or should have because I haven't fed it enough, right? I haven't given it my energy. So it's time to do that. Let's blow this thing out of the fucking water. I'm flipping houses, getting into real estate. I own a couple Airbnbs. And those are kind of be the two main things that my life's going to be focused around.
Are we going to see you on HGTV soon, or?
Very possible. It is a possibility.
Do you want two Australian guys to come over and produce?
What's that?
Do you want two Australians to come over and turn you into a TV show?
I'd rather come to Australia, but yeah, if you want to come here, yeah.
Plenty of nice girls down here for you.
Yeah, man, I love Australia. I went to Sydney one time when the UFC was there, and I loved it. It was such a great time. Australians are awesome people, man.
So now that we are, so I want to take you back a little bit, which everybody wants to know. I'm sure, look, the majority of people who are listening to this do know, but how did you get the name The Immortal?
Good question.
It was tattooed on my stomach.
Yeah, yeah. But look, from the homework that we've done, was there a significant episode in your life that led to this?
Yes, well, there was a significant episode that led to the tattoo, right? So, which is, yeah, obviously what you were getting at. Yeah, so I got the tattoo because, I overdosed on heroin, had a couple other brushes with death. And when I was actually at a party one time, and soon after I'd overdosed, and just kind of in passing, it wasn't even like a significant thing that they were saying or a profound statement, but they were like, dude, you're fucking immortal. Like you lived through another thing, right? Because I had like a few brushes with death that they knew about. And that just stuck with me right there. And I was like, so I actually got it tattooed on my stomach because that was around the time in my life where I wanted to change and get away from the partying and all that. And it was just a reminder, every morning I'd wake up, look at myself in the mirror and be like, you're the fucking immortal, bro. They're not going to stop you, man. There's nothing that they can do. They bury you 6 feet in the ground. You're going to crawl up, dig your way out of that shit. So that was just a little mantra for me. And then it became my nickname, though, because promoters just started calling me The Immortal. I didn't even want the nickname. I thought it was cheesy as fuck with it being tattooed on my stomach. I was like, dude, I can't have a nickname tattooed on me. It's fucking weird, right? But they just started calling me that. And around the scene here in Ohio back in the day, there was a lot of people that didn't even know my real name. They just called me Immortal. So it just kind of stuck, and worked out better because the nicknames that I came up with were cheesy as hell. So it worked out.
Well, anybody who can fight in the UFC till 43 is a superstar in our eyes.
For sure.
Absolutely. Matty, mental health is a very big conversation nowadays. You seem like you bounced back from some from some dark days. What's your advice to people that are going through some tough times?
It's always a tough one because everybody's situation is different. It's kind of that question I get asked all the time. What's your advice for a young fighter? And I'm like, well, what's your situation? Like every young fighter is different. It's kind of the same, like it depends on what your dark time that you're in. Why are you in that dark time? But to be as general as possible with it is to try to explain to people that you can be what you want to be, and not necessarily, that gets confused a lot where they're like, how I could be a millionaire if I want to be a millionaire. It's like, well, not necessarily, but you could live like one, you could speak and talk and act like one, and that was kind of what helped me through my dark times. Like when I decided I, wanted to quit drinking, partying, all that shit and become a fighter, it wasn't that I necessarily, I didn't go to rehab. I didn't have therapy, or I didn't even know what the word therapy meant back then. Shit, it wasn't. That word wasn't tossed around a lot in my day. But all I did was I wake up every morning. I said, like, what would a fighter do today? What would a warrior do? And he's not going to go drinking, right? He's going to go for a run. He's going to go lift weights. So it was just a matter of like, defining my own identity. Define yourself. Like who the fuck you want to be, and define who that motherfucker is, and go do it.
Inspiring, very inspiring. Very different nowadays, Matty. The first thing they tell you to do is take some drug. I mean, this stuff here that you're telling us makes a lot of sense. But is it prescribed enough? I don't think so. I think
I have no idea, to be honest, because I don't really follow all that shit.
Yeah.
Like I hardly follow, like, everything that I see on social media and on my YouTube, my TV, books I read, like everything's just positivity, man. Like I just don't fuck with none of that negative stuff. I'll block it in a heartbeat. Like I don't need a single ounce of it. If I'm dating a girl, like I tell her the same thing. Like straight up, like you 1 second of drama, like I'll walk out that fucking door right now. I don't give a fuck. Like I'm not playing that game for a second. I don't need it in my life, and I'm not interested in it. And yeah, and I don't deal with that shit well.
I think a lot of blokes could do with your advice on the dating scene.
Dude, so that's
Please log into the Google Home app.
It's only because I've made those mistakes, like I overlooked the red flags, and I think that's the biggest mistake people make, man. People tell you who the fuck they are. Everyone, they tell you who they are.
Well, they show you who they are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you need to listen.
Matty,
don't listen.
Matty, my question to you is, what's the biggest change you've seen in fighting, the martial arts side, since you started until now? I mean, there's a lot that's changed, obviously, with the ruling and so on. But from your perspective,
from my perspective, the biggest change has been diversity. Back in the day, there was kind of obviously like Hoist started, and then like jiu-jitsu was dominating, and then like Coleman was coming in and dominating with the wrestling, and then and there was like very few styles dominating at different eras, and nowadays, I mean, you just have so much diversity, man, and there's ways that you can be champion just with any special skill set. You know what I mean? Guys like that's one. Okay, so like if someone comes to me again, like how should a young fighter train? Like should he do jiu-jitsu or Muay Thai or boxing or whatever? And I'm like, bro, there ain't no answer for that. Like when Lyoto Machida came in, if he came into my gym, in 2005 and fought the way he did, I'd be like, bro, you're never gonna do shit. Like you got to keep your hands up. You know what I mean? Like you got to stand different. And then he goes in and becomes world champ.
Wow.
Or like Corey Sandhagen, like the way he fights it. If I was watching him, I'd be like, dude, quit moving your feet so much, like stay in a good, strong stance. And then he'd go out and prove everybody wrong, there's so many examples like that. You could go on all day. There's no right way to do it. And I think the biggest change that we've seen over the years is the exploitation of that. Like there is no right way, where it seemed for a while like everybody was kind of training the same thing. Everybody was kind of doing Muay Thai and jiu-jitsu or like boxing and wrestling. It was all really compartmentalized, and it's just opened up so gigantic now.
And outside the actual martial arts, all these sports science and sports medicine, we see all these PIs that they're being set up all around the world. What are your thoughts on all that stuff? Is that really a big part of a fighter's camp in today's world, or is it overstated?
I think it's cool. I think it's really unnecessary, to be honest. I mean, if you got I mean, it's perfectly fine, and it's great for guys and everything. But realistically, man, if you got mats and a pull-up bar, you can basically do whatever you need, man. I spent 2 months in Cuba and trained with the wrestling team down there, and they got so many world champions and medalists. Yeah, and and these guys, that's what they got. They got a pull-up bar and some mats, and they're out there fucking wrecking shit. And I'm just like, dude, like I don't need all this technology. I don't need a fucking app to tell me what I'm doing right or wrong. Like, go in there, work your ass off, train hard, have some good partners, do some fucking pull-ups, and you're gonna be good.
Well, Matty, instead of going to Cuba, where can Australians, particularly our sports stars, go and find your gym, which you're now going to boost again in Ohio?
I'm in Lewis Center, Ohio, which is a suburb of Columbus, and it's it's a pretty small gym. I'm in Columbus, Ohio, so it's nowhere that anyone's really going to visit, except for we do have the Arnold Sports Festival here every year, which maybe you guys have heard of. It's a gigantic sports festival. That's probably the only reason you'd ever come here. Like, I don't know why else anybody would come to Columbus, Ohio.
Well, to see you and get some amazing training advice from you. So at least if they can't get there, where are they going to find you on your socials?
At I'm The Immortal, Twitter and Instagram, The Immortal Matt Brown on Facebook.
Perfect.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. The man himself, the immortal Matt Brown. Thank you so much, buddy. We appreciate your time. Before we let you go, do you have any parting words for us?
That's a good one. I don't really, I guess, just thanks everybody, man. I'm grateful for people to listen and reach out to me on social too, man. I always try to DM back everybody that DMs me, even if it's kind of meaningless. I miss a lot too, but I do try to reach back. So, so thanks everybody that reaches out, and apologize for missing the ones I do miss, but hit me up sometime,
Done. Ladies and gentlemen, Matt Brown, we wish you all the best in the next chapter of your career. Tony, thank you very much for joining us on the show. Take care, everyone. We'll see you on the next episode of Raw.